Ford sells 4 million vehicles a year. Every one leaves the factory filled with Motorcraft oil. So who makes Motorcraft motor oil? Ford has never manufactured a single drop. A contracted facility blends every bottle. And in 2023, an independent lab found metal contamination inside a factory-sealed bottle. Yet, in separate testing, Motorcraft ranked #1 for wear protection. Both results are real. Here's how that's possible. Welcome to Who Creates What. The information in this video is based on our independent research of public documents like safety data sheets and API registries. Manufacturer partnerships can change, and we are not sponsored by or affiliated with any brands mentioned. Always check your product labels. The first thing the Motorcraft label will never tell you is that Ford Motor Company is a vehicle manufacturer, not an oil company. Motorcraft is Ford's branded parts and fluids division. It covers spark plugs, filters, batteries, and lubricants. But Ford does not own or operate a single lubricant blending facility. Every quart of Motorcraft motor oil sold in the United States is produced under a private label contract agreement. Here's how that works. Ford writes an engineering specification, a document called M2C961, A145W20, or M2C946, B145W30. That document defines exactly what the oil must contain and how it must perform. Then, a contracted facility manufactures the oil to hit those numbers. Ford owns the requirements. A third party owns the production equipment. So the real question is, who is that third party? Based on industry supply chain tracking, dealer delivery documentation, and verified accounts, including a recorded interview with an actual Motorcraft oil delivery driver at a Ford dealership, the primary US manufacturing source is ConocoPhillips, operating under Phillips 66, with blending facilities located in southern Illinois. And this is not a budget operation. ConocoPhillips is one of the top 5 lubricant base oil producers in North America, processing hundreds of millions of gallons every year. This is a Tier 1 petroleum contractor. But here's where it gets more layered than most people expect. The manufacturer behind your Motorcraft oil depends entirely on where in the world your vehicle is located. In the United States, it's ConocoPhillips through Phillips 66. In Canada, it's Petro-Canada Lubricants. Across Europe, it's Castrol, a publicly disclosed Ford partnership. And in the Australia and Asia-Pacific region, it's Shell-affiliated regional contractors. That means the name Motorcraft does not represent a single formula. It represents a specification framework. The same Ford M2C961 A1 standard is being met by entirely different companies, using different base stocks on different continents. A Ford F-150 owner in Detroit and a Ford Kuga owner in Germany both see Ford approved on their oil bottle, but the chemistry inside was formulated by different companies using different technologies. The European product is Castrol-engineered Group 3 Plus technology. The North American product is a ConocoPhillips Group 3 blend. Same label, different molecules. And what those molecules actually are matters because the Motorcraft label says full synthetic. That word needs some context. In 2023, an independent lubrication laboratory ran FTIR spectroscopy on a factory-sealed bottle of Motorcraft 5W20. This is the same analytical method petroleum engineers and professional oil analysis services use worldwide. The infrared absorption peak at 722 inverse centimeters, the signature that identifies the predominant base oil type aligned precisely with the Group 3 hydrocracked mineral base oil classification. Here's what that means in plain terms. Base oils are classified into 5 groups. Group 1 is conventional solvent refined mineral oil. Group 2 is hydro-treated mineral. Group 3 is hydrocracked crude, still derived from petroleum, but processed heavily enough that the industry legally allows it to carry the synthetic label. Group 4 is PAO, polyalpha olefin, what most engineers would call a true synthetic. And Group 5 covers esters and specialty synthetics found in premium formulations. Group 3 is not PAO. It is not ester-based. It starts as refined crude oil, processed through hydrocracking to improve its thermal and oxidative stability. It earned the synthetic label through a 1999 legal ruling when Castrol successfully argued in court that sufficiently processed Group 3 qualifies. That ruling still stands. Motorcraft calls its Group 3 product full synthetic. by that legal standard, technically correct. But here's where the pricing context matters. Motorcraft 5W20 retails at roughly $45 to $50 for a 5-quart jug. At that price, you're sitting right next to Pennzoil Platinum, Castrol GTX Magnatech, and approaching Mobil 1 territory. Those brands also use Group 3 or Group 3 Plus bases. So, at comparable pricing, the base oil isn't the differentiator, the additive package is. And the additive data is where this story takes a turn nobody expects. Base oil is the foundation. Additive chemistry is the engineering. And this is where the lab data tells a story the label never will. Here is what elemental analysis found inside Motorcraft 5W20. Molybdenum, the friction modifier, came in at roughly 11 parts per million. Phosphorus for anti-wear measured around 711 parts per million. Zinc, also anti-wear, tested below phosphorus. Magnesium for detergent and LSPI protection showed 613 parts per million. Calcium for neutralization sat at approximately 1,194 parts per million. And the TBN? The oil's alkaline reserve for acid neutralization measured 7.6. 4 findings stand out from this data. Each one tells you something different about what Ford's engineers prioritized and what they didn't. The first finding is the molybdenum concentration. Molybdenum is a friction modifier that creates micro-adhesive layers on metal surfaces to reduce engine friction and thermal wear. Motorcraft 5W20 contains approximately 11 parts per million. Oils that use molybdenum as a deliberate performance additive typically start at 80 to 90 parts per million minimum. Some premium synthetics exceed 200 parts per million. At 11 parts per million, you're looking at trace amounts entering from the additive package solvent, not a deliberate friction modification strategy. This is not a defect and it's not illegal. But at premium synthetic pricing, the molybdenum level is sparse compared to Pennzoil, Platinum, or Mobil 1 at similar or lower price points. The second finding is the zinc to phosphorus ratio. ZDP, or zinc dialkylithiophosphate, is the foundational anti-wear compound in virtually every motor oil sold today. Over 5 decades of tribological research confirms that zinc concentration should exceed phosphorus for the protective ZDP film to form at full strength. In a laboratory analysis of over 200 oils conducted by the Motor Tavern channel, every single sample showed zinc exceeding phosphorus. Everyone except Motorcraft 5W20 reverses this pattern, with phosphorus at around 711 parts per million exceeding zinc. Under normal daily driving, this is unlikely to cause measurable damage. But under high load, high temperature, or extended drain conditions, the protective margin is narrower than standard formulation practice would produce. The lab flagged this as inconsistent with standard lubricant engineering. The third finding is where Ford's formulation actually shines. Motorcraft contains 613 parts per million of magnesium, while holding calcium at only about 1,194 parts per million. Here is why that combination matters. Ford's most popular engines, the EcoBoost 2.3-litre, 2.7-litre, and 3.5-litre twin-turbo powering the F-150. Explorer, Edge, and Bronco are all turbocharged gasoline direct injection engines. These engines are highly vulnerable to LSPI, or low-speed pre-ignition. That's when microscopic combustion detonations happen before the spark plug fires, and they can destroy connecting rods and pistons. Research shows calcium concentrations above roughly 1,400 parts per million can contribute to LSPI events. Motorcraft's formulation keeps calcium well below that threshold while compensating with high-dose magnesium for cleaning and acid neutralization. This matches the approach mandated by API SP and ILSAC GF6 standards designed specifically for direct injection turbo engines. Ford's engineers built this formulation around their own engine's weaknesses, and that is smart engineering. The fourth finding is the one the lab technician called impossible under normal quality control. That factory-sealed, never-opened bottle of Motorcraft 5W20 contained iron particles, aluminum particles, and copper particles. These are wear metals, the kind you find in used oil after thousands of miles of engine friction. In brand new, sealed virgin oil, they should not exist. The laboratory ran the analysis twice and got the same result both times. The technician's written conclusion flagged the sample as potentially contaminated during the blending or filling process at the manufacturing facility. The container is plastic, so there is no logical source for aluminum and copper from the bottle itself. To be fair, this is one sample. It doesn't represent every batch. At trace levels diluted into a 6-quart sump, these particles are unlikely to cause engine damage. But it is a quality control failure that should not happen from a contracted blender producing oil for one of the world's largest automakers. And this is exactly where the contradiction gets interesting, because a second independent test tells a completely different story. Project Farm, one of YouTube's most rigorous independent product testing channels, conducted an OEM oil comparison in 2024 with Motorcraft, Honda, Toyota, AC Delco, Mopar, and Mobil 1 tested head-to-head. Motorcraft ranked #1 overall in wear protection metrics. That result is not from Ford's marketing department. It's third-party data from a channel with millions of subscribers and well-documented methodology. So how do you reconcile #1 wear protection with contamination and a ZDP anomaly? The answer is batch consistency. One bottle under controlled conditions can deliver excellent results. A different batch from the same production line can carry contamination from the manufacturing chain. In a private label system, batch variation is a structural risk, not necessarily a systematic failure. Both findings are real. Both come from the same product, just different batches. That dual reality only makes sense when you understand how the private label supply chain actually operates. Here is the chain of responsibility behind every bottle of Motorcraft oil. Ford's role is to write and enforce the M2C961A1 specification. They define viscosity, certification requirements, additive performance minimums, and packaging standards, and they audit contractors for compliance. The contractor's role is to source Group 3 base oils, purchase additive packages from Tier 1 suppliers, most likely Infinium, Afton Chemical, or Lubrizol, the same additive houses supplying Mobil, Castrol, and Pennzoil, then blend everything to Ford's spec and fill the containers at their facility. The accountability gap sits right in between. Ford does not operate the blending line. Ford does not control raw material sourcing day to day. Ford does not run real-time spectroscopic verification on every batch. That responsibility belongs to the contractor. For a brand name oil manufacturer like ExxonMobil, a quality failure means a public crisis tied directly to their own flagship product. For a contracted blender producing someone else's private label oil, the brand risk falls on the client Ford, not on the blender itself. And this structure is not unique to Motorcraft. AC Delco, Mopar, Honda Genuine Oil, and Toyota Genuine Oil all run under the same private label model. The entire OEM oil industry works this way. What that means for you is straightforward. The specification is your protection, not the brand name. If a bottle carries API SP and ILSAC GF6 certification, the testing infrastructure behind those certifications is your real quality guarantee, not the Ford oval on the label. So here are 3 scenarios with straight answers. On warranty protection, a lot of Ford owners believe using Motorcraft is required to keep their powertrain warranty intact. That is false, and it is legally defined as false by the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act of 1975. Under federal law, a manufacturer cannot void your warranty for using a competing product as long as that product meets their stated specifications. Any oil carrying API SP and ILSAC GF6 certification meets Ford's published requirements. The "you must use Motorcraft" line you hear at the service counter is a sales position, not a legal obligation. On value for money at $45 to $50 for 5 quarts, Motorcraft sits at premium pricing against competitors offering comparable or stronger additive profiles at lower cost. Pennzoil Platinum runs $28 to $35 with higher molybdenum and standard ZDP ratios. Mobil 1 runs $35 to $45. All carry the same API, SP, and ILSAC GF6 certifications. You are paying OEM pricing for a Group 3 formulation that performs competitively when batch consistent but does not offer an additive advantage at this price tier. On technical fit for EcoBoost engines, Motorcraft's LSPI-tuned formulation does have a genuine technical rationale for Ford's turbocharged direct injection lineup, the 2.3-litre, 2.7-litre, and 3.5-litre engines. The controlled calcium and elevated magnesium were calibrated specifically around Ford's own engine vulnerability modeling. But competing API SP and GF6 certified oils from Pennzoil, Platinum, and Mobil One address LSPI through similar low-calcium strategies. Motorcraft is a valid choice, not your only choice. Here is the bottom line. Motorcraft oil, when produced to specification, is a competently engineered product. Project Farm's independent data backs that up. Ford's M2C961 A1 standard is a real engineering document, not a marketing construct. But you are trusting a private label supply chain where batch quality depends on the contractor, where the ZDP chemistry shows an anomaly not found in any comparable lab analysis, and where the molybdenum concentration sits below meaningful friction modification doses, all at premium pricing. The certification on the label API SP ILSAC GF6 is your real protection. The Motorcraft brand name is not. Buy the specification, not the badge. Now you know who makes the oil. The next question is, who makes Honda genuine motor oil? Because Honda runs the exact same private label model, and the company actually blending their oil might surprise you more than this one did. That full investigation is right here. Who makes Honda genuine motor oil? It's not what you think. And if you want to keep tracing the supply chains behind the products you use every day, subscribe to Who Creates What. Every week, we answer one question: who actually makes this? The answer is almost never who you'd expect.